we're going to get a little bit, thanks, Emery. We're going to get a little bit more into what that series means, a little bit further into the introduction. For now, this is part one, Sardis Secondary School. We're going to have Joe and Tania speaking from their school in Chilliwack, BC. So I wanted to start off with a territorial acknowledgement. My name is Margot, and I am the program coordinator for Farm to School BC, and I'm joining today from the Tsimshian Territories up in northwestern BC, what is colonially known as Terrace, British Columbia. I would love if everyone could take a moment to introduce yourself a little bit, introduce where you're joining from today. If a territorial acknowledgement is in your practice, we'd love to have a territorial acknowledgement from where you're coming from. If not, Eve-Marie has added a link in the chat there for you to take a peek at which territory you're joining from and to share a little bit about that territory. We'd love to hear where everyone's coming from today. So just a quick overview of what's going to happen in today's webinar. We're currently in the welcoming and opening, which is going to take about 5 minutes. We'll do an introduction to Farm to School BC and the project overview of the Cultivating Curiosity series. Sardis Secondary School, we've got Joe and Tania. They're going to be doing a presentation for about 35 minutes to talk about their school farm. We'll have time for question and answers at the end, and then we'll wrap it up with a quick 5-minute closing and next steps. So for those of you who are just joining, this session is being recorded. So if you are not comfortable having your face recorded, please just turn off your camera. And we'll go to the next slide. So I'm going to pass it over to Marcus to introduce Farm to School BC.
Hello, everyone. Just wanted to jump in. I'm joining from Howsett Territory today in the community of Moctezes. A little bit about Farm to School BC. So we're hosting this webinar series in partnership with Ministry of Agriculture and Food. Farm to School BC has been supporting BC schools since 2007, engaging students in healthy local food, hands-on learning, school and community connectedness. And we are a program of the Public Health Association of BC. So what do? We are most known for our annual grant funding that launches each fall. We fund a variety of school food programs and prioritize rural, remote, and First Nation schools in our funding decision model. On the screen here, you can see a number of different types of programs that we fund. Really, we allow those who, we encourage those who submit applications to decide the direction of the needs of their school community. We funded about 400 schools over the past over a decade, and we'll be launching again in the fall. We open up our funding. So we also support innovative projects in a number of different ways, both kind of sort of at the program or provincial level, but also through our regional coordinators. We're always looking to support projects that connect K-12 students to opportunities that highlight school food champions, local agriculture, and other champions working in the sphere of food literacy and food. If you've ever visited our website, you know that we have a wide array of resources that we've developed, as well as showcasing many resources from partner organizations. And so here's just a few. We're right in the process of launching new ones right now and partnering on new ones. But here's some that have been steady resources on our website. Learning from the Land Toolkit connects K-12 students to schools and Indigenous plants and pedagogy. Hands-on food website, which is a lot of online resources for educators that connect to a BC curriculum and teach about food. And then our guide to growing a school farm, which is really an overview of the development of farm models on school grounds. We operate under a regional approach model with staff members, or regional coordinators, as we call them, situated in each of the health authority regions. These regional coordinators focus on supporting the connection of K-12 schools with community, and they support relationship building, event planning, professional development events, and also directly support schools who have been funded from us. So if you're unaware of who your regional coordinator is, if you if you're living in one of these areas, which I know you must be, do go to our website and you can see the list of who they are, and you're welcome to reach out if you're looking for support in your school food programming. And I will pass it back over to Margot.
Thanks, Marcus. So this webinar is part of a series called Cultivating Curiosity, which is a program designed to look at innovative models for agriculture and food systems literacy in BC secondary schools. This project is supported by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, and we're really excited to be working on this project to help create some work around connecting educators who are working in school food to be able to connect with each other and to learn about new resources that are happening across the province. So how this is going to sort of be structured over the next several months is we do have the webinar series, which I'll touch a little bit more on in the next slide. There are a series of 3 webinars happening this spring, highlighting schools and educators with agriculture courses across the province, the first of which is Sardis Secondary today. And then we're going to have 1 resource launch webinar happening in the fall of 2025. There's going to be opportunities for engagement throughout the next couple months. We'll be able to connect like-minded educators looking to develop agriculture and curriculum connections, as well as advance agriculture course creation through a file sharing platform and email group. There is field trip funding available for those who are participating in the webinar series and in the engagement opportunities. I'll speak a little bit more on the details of that in a moment. And then finally, there will be a resource developed. So we'll be capturing the webinar series learnings and then additional case studies that will be made available in a downloadable resource. And that downloadable resource will be available in fall of 2025. So for the webinar series that's happening this spring, it is a 3-part series. We're on part 1 today with Massie and Tania Toth of Sardis Secondary School. Part 2 is going to be taking place on Thursday, May 15th. So that's just over 2 weeks away with Crystal Tenbrink and Aaron Eidzevic from How Sound Secondary School. And then part 3 is with Dan Schulbeck and Shelley Crack from Haida Gwaii, and that'll be happening on Tuesday, May 27th. All of the webinar series are going to be taking place from 3:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon. Eve-Marie also shared a link to register in case you need to register for the additional webinars coming up. So the engagement piece of this project, it's going to be divided into a couple different sections. So there's going to be an opportunity for resource sharing. So this is a place where educators who have great resource created already can share those in an email platform. So we're going to be connecting to secondary schools and curriculum and learning a little bit about what's happening in the province and what other folks have already created. The file storage piece is where these files are going to be uploaded. So it's a place to upload files, course materials, guides, lesson plans, presentations for other educators to learn from. Files shared will be open to educators with file access. So the idea with this is to really create a little bit of an understanding of sort of what already exists, what other educators have already been working on, so that you can really build upon it within your own practice. And then networking, staying connected in real time through group email with questions and real-time connections. So we'll be sharing more about these specific engagement opportunities. There'll be a follow-up email to this webinar, and we'll be sharing more about how you can engage with each of these pieces. Eve-Marie did drop the links in the chat for the file sharing if you want to check that out, or you have some files that you'd like to upload already. But otherwise, we'll be following up with an email to give more specific direction and a little bit more information and context into each of those engagement opportunities. So the field trip funding, we do have 10 $1,000 grants available. To be eligible to be entered into the lottery for one of the 10 field trip funds, participants must attend at least 2 of the 3 webinar series, spring series that we outlined at the beginning. And then along with that, complete the pre and post survey questions. So everybody who's here has already completed the pre-survey, and you're already one of the 2 needed to get into the lottery for that. The post-survey questions will be coming out after the full series is completed. So those will be sent via email after the full series is completed. And then there's a couple ways to get bonus entries. By joining the email group, you could get an entry, and then by uploading a document on the resource file share, you get a document. Again, just so we are able to attribute the right person to the files that are uploaded, if you could title it with your last name and resource title, that would be great. We'll follow up with this in an email. I know it's a lot of information to kind of take in all at once. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce the team at Sardis Secondary School. So as I mentioned, we have Tania Toth and Joe Massie, who are educators, and they currently run the agricultural program at Sardis Secondary School in Chilliwack, BC, which includes a working greenhouse and a new agriculture learning center, the 5-acre Sardis Secondary School farm, including school gardens, research projects, and community-supported agriculture gardens. For almost 20 years, Joe and Tania have continued to educate students via the now 41-year-old agriculture program at Sardis Secondary School, continuing the work of their predecessors, running the annual Mother's Day plant sale while advancing and growing the program. Tania and Joe continue to find ways to deliver hands-on learning environment that fosters employment skill development, connections to the land, and connections to both food literacy and food security. So I'm really excited. As I sent the PowerPoint over earlier, and there's some incredible photos that I'm really excited to learn more about how they're doing this and what that process looked like. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Joe and Tania.
All right, thank you, Margot, and welcome to everyone here. This is our first webinar we've done together, I think. And so it's a little bit new for us, but hopefully everyone enjoys it and has a chance to learn a little bit, and hopefully we can learn from you too. I see a few familiar faces in the crowd, and I know there's some group watching too, which is great. So just really quickly about myself, you gave me a nice introduction there. I appreciate that. I was born and raised in Chilliwack. I was born onto a dairy farm in Chilliwack, and my family has raised animals and plants through my whole childhood. I worked at a greenhouse as a youth, and then became a school teacher with the idea of teaching physics. My degree is in science at the physics major, no agriculture or biology at all. But my personal background and interest definitely lies, and my roots literally are in agriculture as well. So it was a natural fit when I joined the agriculture program. And Tania, who has a fairly similar background, she's going to tell you about briefly here. It was a natural fit for us to work together, and it's been a great 20 years almost of running agriculture at Sardis Secondary.
Yeah. So like Joe, I have a agriculture background, but it's a little different. I'm from Saskatchewan, and we are a different type of farming system out there. We're a large kind of crop farming system. So we have grain farms in Saskatchewan, but we moved here when I was a teenager, and I pursued a science degree to teach biology, and well, have a lot of overlap in plants, so it fit really nice. And Joe, with his interest in agriculture, together we've come together in the program and been growing it into what we're going to show you today. So that's kind of our background out in here in Chilliwack. And I think we're going to share our screen with you and just kind of get into our presentation. I think what we decided is if you have some questions, feel free to pop them into the comments as we go, and towards the end, what we'll do is we'll answer them. That way we can just kind of keep flowing. And then we can always do more questions after that as well. So this is our Sardis Secondary School farm on the day of our well drilling. So this was our big ceremonial kickoff day. And we did a big ceremonial dogwood planting for our grads.
Sorry, Joe and Tania, we can still see the browser. It's not quite all the way full screen.
Oh,
it's fine if you're okay with that.
I'm not sure how to get rid of it.
We're very polished.
We're so good at this.
That's okay.
Is everybody okay with the way it is? Are we good?
Hold on. I think I can do it.
There you go. Okay. So you see there is our ceremonial. That's not our tractor. We wish that was our tractor. That's one of our volunteers and expert volunteers that we'll talk about. So this is kind of jumping forward from that day. We're looking about 10-ish years later, and we've got the two girls holding the pumpkins. Those are some of our continuing summer school students who are coming out to our big harvest day that we'll get to. You can see some of our other students harvesting the cabbage. This is for one of our community harvests that we'll share with you. And then we've got my grade 12s right now planting plants for our Mother's Day plant sale.
Yeah, and so basically the outline for what we're going to go through today is written on the screen there. We're going to tell you basically the basics about our program and how it runs all year long. That includes what different programs and courses we offer agriculture under. We're going to talk about how we've built connections within the Chilliwack community with multiple groups and people to make the program happen. The ways that we are able to engage students through K to 12. Well, I put pros and cons. You changed that to something nicer.
Oh, I did. Sorry, I should have fixed that. I changed it to challenges and joys.
Yes. Okay. And also where the future lies for us, we hope. And then, of course, time for a question period, whatever you have. So feel free to write questions in the chat as we go so you don't forget them, and we can kind of refer to that later, or you can just jump on and ask at the end, either way. All right. And am I going through slides here or not? Just talking about it. Okay. So basically our agriculture teaching has three main areas of specific locations that we teach out of. The first is traditional classroom. And so because some of the courses we're offering that we're going to mention are typical science courses, Science 10, etc. We do have a component in the classroom for theory work and for labs that we do. But the most exciting two locations are the greenhouse and the farm. The greenhouse is actually located on our school campus. It's approximately 30 feet by about 70 feet long. And so we have, over the years, the main growing we do there with our students is for a Mother's Day plant sale. That's hanging baskets, planters, and bedding plants that we have a great big Mother's Day sale / celebration where our students help us sell to the community. And we also have done various other growing in the greenhouse, such as hydroponic growing, cucumbers, vegetables, tomatoes. I think we have some pictures of that coming up too. And we've kind of tried to make it as year-round as we can. The school farm is our third location. That is not on our campus. That's about a 5-minute drive, or if students are walking, it's about a 25-minute walk away from our school. And that's a 5-acre piece of land that we're going to explain quite thoroughly in the coming slides.
So I guess what the big thing about a project like this is that you got to consider how to fund it. And so we have multiple ways that we fund it through fundraisers, grants, community aid, and volunteers. So I just want to share a few of those with you. And then as we go through the slide, we've got more of that kind of in visual and some other pieces to share. So Joe's already went over our Mother's Day plant sale. This is going to be our 41st year selling hanging baskets, planters, and bedding plants, vegetables, and strawberries and herbs. Also on top of that, we've done these hothouse programs where we're selling our veggies, which doesn't have the same return as our first fundraiser I shared with you. At our farm, we do a community-supported agriculture fundraiser. So members of our community buy shares of our harvest, and they pick up weekly shares. And so this is one of the fundraisers we do at the farm to bring in money. On top of that, we right now have a major fundraiser going for our new greenhouse that we'll be adding to the farm. So this is our next kind of phase on our farm program. And so we'll share a little bit with you on that during the end as well. But it is our very large structural fundraiser that we're participating in. We have been a part of grant writing, starting with the aid from BC Ag in the classroom, taking us through grant writing programs, supporting us with learning blocks to facilitate the formation of our Sardis Secondary School farm. With that, we have received funding from Farm Credit Canada, Canadian Schools Trust, Farm to School, Chilliwack Foundation, and others. We have community aid through through companies or businesses like Minter Gardens, who supplies us with pollination gardens, expertise. Rotary Chilliwack has built us our student community garden shed on our farm, which we'll show you in a picture here in a bit. We have local germinators that germinate our farm crops for us that are difficult to germinate or get started by sowing. And we have local farmers like the Arts and the Joiners Corn who are farming our backfield in our conventional section. Expert volunteers who have helped us amongst many other volunteers. We have to give a shout out to Tom Bauman, who is a retired university horticulture professor at UFV and has been partnering with us for probably as long as Joe and I have been here together.
And a student favorite every time he visits.
Oh yeah, he's a big guy. So Joe talked about some of the classes, and I just want to kind of go over it. There's a few things that I'll get Joe to add here when he talks about the IDS and the BAA, but our big focus kind of science credits are our environmental science link and our environmental science 12 link. And I just kind of want to share some of the big ideas and then ways that we link our curriculum to our place. So if we look at the 11, stewardship of land, ecosystem knowledge and services, traditional First Peoples knowledge, ways of knowing are the big ideas around environmental science 11. And we have done such like a medicine wheel on our farm. We've got a future First Nations garden going in with traditional plants. We do integrated pest management and crop rotation practices on our farm. We use ecological systems and services with our farm, but our grade 11 course doesn't just use the farm. We also deal with greenhouse there, as well as fisheries and forestry units. So we link all of these into different ways we can relate to the space of Chilliwack. With our 12, our big ideas are human impact on water and land, sustainable land use, and living sustainably. And again, that brings us to our integrated pest management practices. We have a no-till section, which we'll show you here in a second. It's our non-conventional section, which is the majority of our student functional area of the farm. We do water and responsible use lessons with irrigation and fertigation. We participate in a 100-kilometer diet. All of our students take food home, and it's a part of the course where they have to cook with it, eat with it, and interact with their families. So our farm to table. We do multi-crop horticulture and lots of soil and, again, ecological practices. Then we have these other courses that are a little bit more unique outside of your science curriculum, and I'll let Joe chat about that, but also the things we've done with that Science 10 piece.
Yeah, the double.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to talk about the future.
We can do that too later.
Okay. So one of our probably our most popular, at least the most popular in terms of number of students signing up for courses, has been a new course we introduced a few years ago, which is a combined course. We combine Science 10 with Environmental Science 11. And one of the advantages of offering as a science elective is that first of all, it's Science 10 is a mandatory course for all students to take. And students also have to take one Science 11 for graduation requirements. And so that really is a piece that motivates students to take courses that, especially students who don't fit as well into a traditional classroom. And when we tell them they can do a majority of their learning outdoors in the garden or in the greenhouse, we see the eyes perk up pretty quick and they get excited to not have to sit inside all the time. So we offer this course now, Science 10 / we call it Agriculture 11, although it's run under Environmental Science 11. And we try to, as much as possible, link the concepts in Science 10 with what we do in agriculture and environmental sciences. So, for example, in biology, we do a genetics unit, which fits beautifully into agriculture, whether we're talking about the genetics of the different crops we're growing, we're talking about genetic modification and engineering, or artificial selection of plants, that sort of thing. When we talk about chemistry, we're mixing fertilizers. We're talking about the important nutrients plants need to survive, and we can have students measure pHs of our fertilizers. They can look at nutrient levels and make it very practical. So instead of labs in science are great, and they're a great next step to getting students to see learning. But when it becomes actually real, and when we can show them that the pH of the soil and the fertilizers can actually affect the growth of plants before their eyes over the course of weeks, and it becomes a much more powerful lesson. And so we find there's a great buy-in with that. And so, yeah, basically this new course has been very popular. Next year, we're going to have 3 different teachers teaching whole classes of it. And so that ultimately gives us a lot more manpower because we have a big project at the farm in the greenhouse, and it also means that we can run it all year round. We can run it in the fall and we can run it in the spring. So that, along with another course that Tania may want to speak to quickly about the Indigenous 12 course.
I can speak to that. I'll segue it this way. And I'll let Joe talk to the BAA
Sure.
Sustainable Resources. Years ago, we toggled through many different options out there to teach our summer learning. And IDS was one, but we use it a little different now. But we ended up having to come to creating a board authorized course, a local board authorized course. And so that allows us to do elective credits. And I'll let Joe speak to those. But me and another colleague are currently producing another BAA course, which is going to be called Traditional Ecological Knowledge, and it's going to qualify students for Indigenous 12 credits, which are core credits, and we're going to be linking that to the Environmental 12 course. I think one of the things that maybe you should know is if you're trying to, as teachers, figure out how to utilize more time, because in a block system, it's difficult. These double block half day for us courses, where we can teach 2 courses and link these spaces, really allows a lot of time to integrate theory into practice better and have kids get more out of what they're doing in the place that they're learning. I'll let you go.
Sure, yeah. Well, and just further to that, like I mentioned, the farm is not at our school property. So if we want students to attend class at the farm, we either have to get them to meet us there in the morning, or we have to get them to walk there, which is a 25-minute walk, or we have to pay for transportation for them. And when our blocks are about 80 minutes long, you can imagine with 25 minutes walking both ways, that doesn't leave a whole lot of time for accomplishing anything, let alone teaching a lesson to go with it. So the double block's been vital for us, and it really allows us to spend a lot more time at the farm, where we can spend, a couple hours. That can include a lesson. It can include actually accomplishing a lot in one day, especially with 20 or 30 students attending. And so, this year we've got, probably almost a quarter of our garden planted already. And we're quite ahead of schedule because we do have this double block. Now, what people always ask us is, what about the summertime? I heard another webinar recently, or maybe it was actually just an in-person talk, but the title of it was, don't go on holidays in July. And that was literally what they called their whole talk, because of how important the month of July is when it comes to the growing season. Not only are you harvesting, you're planting your secondary crops or your crops for the fall, and any succession planting for second crops of the year have to happen kind of in July if you want to get a harvest. So July is this vital time, not to mention that's when the weeds grow the fastest. It's when the most pests come around, the most problems sort of arise, as well as great food to harvest and enjoy, right? So July is this vital month, and then of course all the students are gone. So that's always the question we get. We've gone through many different versions of this over the years, from basically Tania and I volunteering with a few students. We've tried to have work experience credits attached to students to try to draw them in. We've offered IDS courses so that they can get something as a result. We can't really pay them. We don't have any funding to pay them. But ultimately, things change when we developed this BA summer learning course called Sustainable Vegetable Production, where students are actually receiving credits, and with credits attached comes funding from the government, which means that we can actually hire teachers, including ourselves, to work in the summertime. And so with our district, we've got a really great system set up now where Tania and I can lead the program, but last year we had 4 other teachers, or 5.
Yeah, we've got a summer learning slide coming up too. We'll highlight some of that in
Sure.
our expansion, but definitely these are the ways we're expanding here. And Joe's right. It's vital to be on the farm in the summer. I think, Joe, just to answer your question, Joe, I think we had between the 3 of like our program, our high school program, we had 4 teachers with our culinary teacher, and then
3 others.
3 others.
Yeah, so 8 teachers employed to teach about 100 high school students, about 25 middle school, and about 40 elementary school, all participating in the farm in the summertime. So parents were very excited to get students on, and the students had a great time, and it hasn't been very difficult to get them to sign up so far with these credits attached. And those are students heading into grades 9 through 12 that can all sign up for that course.
For the high school courses.
For the high school course, yes, of course. Oops. Oh, there's our greenhouse. Jumping ahead. Okay, so this is our sort of our biggest celebration type activity of the year, and it all starts in February when we get our new semester 2 students. And our job for the first couple of months is to get them excited about this event. Because when we first tell them about a Saturday Mother's Day sale, they have to show up at 6 a.m. to set up and get ready for. They're not always the most excited, but once they actually get out there and realize that they've planted the flowers, they've made these beautiful baskets, they've got to have say in what goes into them. They are the ones doing the majority of the work. They have to solve the problems that arise in a greenhouse, and they get very excited about it. So I mean, I think so far we've got 40 kids signed up to show up at 6 a.m. to help with this sale. And there's some pictures in here of the sale itself. The community, it has become a real part of the Sardis culture that to come to this sale. We have definitely hundreds, if not over 1,000 people attending this sale and contributing to it each year. A little bit weather dependent, of course, that's the way flower sales go. But basically, yes, this is our big project that all our learning kind of stems around. Well, not all, but a majority in the spring. So this is our greenhouse in its full glory right before our sale, where our baskets are pretty much in full color. And this is from a couple of years ago where we, but typically this is about what it looks like with planters on the ground and other bedding plants and our baskets hanging. And the students have basically been responsible for this for the last 2 months before May. This year it's on May 10th, opening at 7 a.m. So we're very excited. This is actually a stressful time of year for Tania and I, because we're every year just holding our breath and like, okay, please don't die. All these plants, there's no reason for them to die, but I'm always just, every time I walk in, I'm like, okay, everything looks good. Make sure it's watered and fertilized and everything's feeling good. We haven't had a huge aphid infestation that we have to deal with. There's all sorts of things that could come up, sorry. But anyway, things are looking great this year, as they tend to do. Yeah, so anyway, this is kind of our big project. And by this time, students are kind of understand why it's so exciting. They're making videos to promote our sale. They're looking at the marketing aspect. They're excited to be part of the sales. They're excited to show their parents and their customers all the things they've been learning about.
I think the other exciting piece is that the plants have really grown. Like, they start out with a plug that probably is about 1 inch tall, and it turns into these gorgeous baskets. Before we change here, this is the greenhouse at Sardis Farm, and just keep this in your mind because at Sardis Secondary School. Keep this in your mind because we are planning that new big fundraiser for our Sardis Farm, and that looks a little bit different, but either way, you can imagine what we can do there if we're doing this here.
Yes, not to be confused. We have 2 greenhouses we're talking about. One exists and one we hope is going to exist.
So this is our Sardis Secondary School farm, and you can see a picture of our kids in the summer. I'd say this is the end of July. We have to wait usually. Joe patiently waits for me to approve the big mass harvest of the garlic and the hanging, because I want all the elementary kids away from the pole shed and the middle school kids, and then it just turns into a garlic drying center. So we have been able to perpetuate. And if you look down in the bottom picture and you see that really green space, kind of by those white flaggy looking things, that's our garlic. So we have a huge garlic bed. We take great pride in our Russian garlic. It's delicious. Everybody loves it. The kids end up cooking with it.
Especially Tania.
I really love it. We've got escape crop coming. It's our first crop on the farm every year. And then you can see, and I've got a better picture, a more full picture of this farm. But before I get to that and go over some layers, I just want to let you know that we did not start this way. So if you are somebody, going on this excursion in your career and getting into this, we did this in phases. And our first phase was the meeting phase and the idea phase. And I would say that came one night after a very, very good Mother's Day plant sale to Mr. Massie himself. 2009 came up with this idea, and here we are. And probably around 2010, we really started meeting with our district. This is our district's property, and they weren't doing anything with it. And so the admin at the executive level and maintenance were really excited. Our board was really excited, and it took us a few years of a lot of planning. And we started out with that parking lot you see and a cornfield. And then we went into a strike. And so we didn't actually access anything because we weren't allowed on property. The following year, we accessed the school farm here, and we continue to expand. So in the parking lot, you can see this little shed, the red shed, and then this little shed. I don't know if my cursor works and you can see it right here. This is our community board, and around our community board is our edible landscape provided by Brian Minter. He put together all sorts of different plants that flower from January to May that are food crops and or not food crops like heather. We have in our very first year put a garden right over here, which now is where our elementary and middle school garden is located over here. We've put a pole shed in. We've put all these garden beds in. I'm going to show you a picture later of where we started. And I just want you to remember this as well, because we did not start like this. Our ground, we've been amending soil for probably 10 years for sure, in the rich garden based area that you see. We have a berry crop provided by Tom Bauman and his expertise that we are going to be amending again this year and just upgrading. And so this is our no-till section of our farm here and here.
Can you see the cursor when she moves it or not? Good, perfect.
Yeah, we can. Okay. And then back here, this was our pumpkin area, but it's all sort of changed a little. That's now our plant-a-row area and our pumpkin area as well, but it looks a little different the way we laid out. And then our conventional garden, you can't see. This is where our farmers come in and help us with tilling of the earth and planting of the corn. So you can see that we've kind of built in years, and our next project that's going on here is going to be where you see those white flags, and those white flags are actually giant pumpkin dens. And so we started giant pumpkins in there and taught the kids how to train them. And then we shipped giant pumpkins to the feeder schools. And at Halloween, they decorated their schools and painted the pumpkins. And so we also had them at ours, and it created a photo booth for Halloween activities. So this is kind of that in a nutshell. And then we'll show you where we're going with that as well.
Yeah, the whole piece of having we call it a sustainable garden, where we've done the soil amendment right next to a more conventional style growing, and right next to that is more of a food for cattle, GMO corn growing. It's a really great way to compare and do education of different growing styles and talk about the pros and cons of each one.
So this is just looking at some things that kids do at the farm. So here we're planting potatoes. So we get our seed potatoes here in BC, lots of times from BC Ag in the Classroom, a lot of times from Local Harvest, another local farming partner who does sustainable growing just like we do. So here's the kids out there, nice sunny day.
This year from Canadian Tire.
This and also from Canadian Tire, both last year and this year, because they're a big sponsor of ours as well. So they helped a lot with the garden beds for the elementary section. You can see our gorgeous, beautiful landscape in the back, our mountainous views. So this is one of the things we do. We've got a lot of kids in the farm in the summer as well as during the school year. Right now, all of our schools that we host are starting to come out and use those facilities we just talked about, the elementary raised bed gardens, the middle school garden. And so this is us doing a big end of year harvest, possibly end of summer harvest. We've got tons of kids in the summer, tons of kids coming in the school year, and they just come there and enjoy and help feast on lots of the products that we're making here at the farm. You can add in whenever you like, Joe. Oh, I would like to say that one of the things that also happens, what you'll see in this picture, all those kids are taking that home. Anything that's left over from these pictures is going to our partnership with the Salvation Army. So in 2023, Brian Minter reached out to us and asked us, because he knows about our farm, if we would plant a row. And we said, no, we won't plant a row, but we'll get the kids to plant a bunch of rows. And so we plant over an acre of food, plus all of the farm space you just saw. Any of our extras go to the local Salvation Army food programs, and our food, they are our city food hub for distribution to all sorts of different things that we need another show for. But all this would be extra food. And I wish I had, I got some numbers, like, well, we'll give the numbers in a couple slides. We got some more time.
One thing I might just throw in is what we do with our food, because I'm not sure that's.
You can talk with that.
Sure, yeah. So really, I'd say there's like three purposes to all the food we grow. Primarily, I would say is we want to get the food in our students' hands and on their plates to eat with their families. So all the students who take part in the farm, we encourage them to take home as much as they can fit in their backpacks or their bags or whatever they bring along, their reusable shopping bags. And so that's I would say our main priority is to get food in the hands of students. It's a school farm for a reason. And so this is, definitely the most amount of food, I would say, goes back to students, whether it's during the school year, but especially in the summertime and in the fall. Secondly, we do run a fundraiser through it. We want to try to be sustainable financially as well. And so we do the CSA program that Tanya mentioned, and we try to manage, there's a huge demand for CSA type grocery shopping, right? There's a big demand in our community for that type of buying as opposed to, say, grocery stores. However, the more people we sign on, the more responsibility and is on us to provide that. And since we have so many students, we try to keep it to a number that we feel is manageable for us. So I think around 20 people has been pretty good for us lately.
For our CSA, for sure.
For our CSA, so that we have enough to make a significant fundraiser, and yet not such a big number that we find it overwhelming with their number of students, and to make sure that they can actually have time to harvest and put together really high quality baskets for each person. And then the third, and it's been a great partnership with the Salvation Army that Tanya just talked about, because they have this new program called Plant a Row in Chilliwack, where all community members are encouraged to plant an extra row of food in their gardens to donate to their pantry program, which is basically a free grocery store for those who can't afford it. So we take our students to the Salvation Army pantry, we let them see what's going on, and then we donate any extra food that we grow to the Salvation Army for that purpose. And our students are heavily involved in that, in packing the trucks for that program, and then visiting and seeing where that food goes, and really learning about community citizenship and stewardship of the food that we have grown, and also teaching them not to let food go to waste if at all possible. So this is the beautiful thing about what the Salvation Army has done is they take any food that is edible, and so we really have a place where we don't have to worry about our food going to waste.
I think one thing we'll add to that is this wasn't our first time working with donating as citizenship and community. But the thing about the Salvation Army being the hub is that all the organizations like Wilma's transition home for abused family members that need a place to transition out of, for us, the Stolo community that we've shared food with, for Bowls of Hope, another agency, for Ruth and Naomi's. They all go to Salvation Army, so this gives us a nice central location to still work with all those other groups, but house larger amounts of food for storage. I'll just wrap up the farm here. Just so you know, this is our kids right now getting our farm ready. They're mowing the lawn, they're planting onion sets and potatoes. And what happens is with this linear kind of progression of courses, we have these different learning opportunities. Spring's really about getting the soil ready, getting the plants into the ground, doing transplants, setting up irrigation, whereas our summer is a lot about plant care and harvesting, preparation for sales, and then in our falls, our massive harvest and our winterization. And this is just our giant pumpkins. I just wanted you to see that big pumpkin in there. And we didn't do a lot. We could have probably got a bigger pumpkin if we would have done a lot more stuff. So we're going to try again in a few years and maybe enter a competition. I don't know.
Okay, so I think we've covered this. I'll just quickly touch on this again because I did talk about it. But yeah, this is our BAA course, Sustainable Vegetable Production. We do a lot of recruitment for the middle schools because one of our main targets is to connect with students that are entering high school and give them a head start in the summertime, both in course credit and in a chance to meet friends and teachers and transition more easily into high school. Our school is about 14 or 1500 students, depending on the year, and is a stressful, huge, intimidating place at times. And so it's a really great way to transition students from middle school up to high school. And then, of course, our middle and elementary schools are planting their little gardens, and it's very cute and wonderful. I think we've got some pictures here of them with their little lessons they're doing. In the background at the top left is they have some raised bed gardens, much smaller scale. We've invested in little bee suits so they can see our bees. One of our, Tanya and I are not the beekeepers at the farm, but we have one of our elementary teachers who runs the beehives. We have kind of a little team now, actually.
Well, we
that
do, and we kind of
together.
have also another set of our teachers that are there who are also getting into bees. So it's the bee culture is expanding at the farm.
But maybe the most fun is just to climb on top of the compost pile and play King of the Castle. That's really fun too.
Kids love that, and you can see in the faded out picture here that they also really love the flowers and just having a really good time at the farm.
They don't know what they're standing on. If they did, they might not like it so much, but well, maybe they would.
Some of them call them the king of the manure castle.
That's right. Right. And so we've already touched on this a lot. The middle picture is neat though. That's our Salvation Army or our CSA bin, sorry. And so we put together what we hope is really good value for our customers' dollar. We generally plan on filling up a bin and we end up filling like 2 bins plus a bag of corn often. And so we just want to make sure that our community members are happy with what they're getting and have really healthy food. Go on.
Yeah, so that kind of brings us to sharing with our community partners and connections. So we have some other schools coming to our farm. I'll just name some just so you can kind of see. We've got Stitos, which is a K-8 school attending, Vetter Middle School, which is a 6 to 8. All of these feeder schools into our school, both Sardis and Yarrow Elementary are joining our school. So these are a lot of the members in the middle school garden and the elementary garden. We're really encouraging Bulls of Hope to set up their farm to be able to do the other side of the tracks, because in Chilliwack, you're kind of divided by the freeway. There's the Chilliwack Sardis side, and we're on the Sardis side. And that would give more schools more opportunity in a local setting to do what we're doing. So that's kind of like one of the other pieces with our Bowls of Hope. We've done things with in the past, giving them food, giving them seeds, giving them plants. So we've also got our Salvation Plant-A-Row, and this year, this was our first Salvation Plant-A-Row, and we had Josh from the Salvation Army, who runs the pantry, come out and tell our kids in the Christmas assembly, have all of our kids ever involved in agriculture and passing food into the community, stand up in our assembly, come get a picture, and they ended up telling the whole student body that year we donated 12,000 pounds of fresh produce harvested that day. So, I mean, you can't get any fresher than that to the Salvation Army that year. And we topped it last year with 15,000 pounds. Pounds are kind of interesting because it depends on water weight, but you get the picture that we're sending truckloads of food into our community as well as the mouths of our students and CSA. Oh, but one thing we left out in the summer school is we do a farm to table with our culinary teacher. So all the kids are eating meals and preparing them on the farm. And the other thing we left out is what was it? That's something that will come back to me. It will come back to me that we left out. It's something to do with farm to table. That's for sure. Go ahead, Joe.
Sure. Yeah. So we just have a link here for our many sponsors. We have tried to honor them as best we can. So this is our farm greenhouse fundraiser, and we've kind of got different levels of sponsorship. See, many people have contributed to that. We haven't really talked about our greenhouse.
Well, no, this is our new one, and it's kind of our ending slide, but all those plaques.
Lots more. So we'll come back to that.
All those plaques are for what we're fundraising, our large fundraiser, but the stuff Joe's on right now that he was sliding down. Do you want to go back to it for a second?
Sure.
The stuff that he's sliding down here, these are all of our sponsors, whether they're financial sponsors or community sponsors over the last 20 years that have made all of this possible. So Joe and I might be like, I don't know, the brawn. I was gonna say the brains and the brawn.
Speak for yourself.
But at the same time, there's so many people that stand behind us and make sure that we continue. So if you want, I know you're going to publish this, and we can publish those links or make them accessible, Margot, so that people can take a look. But you're welcome to just go to the Sardis Secondary School website, to the agriculture program, and you can view those links as well. And I still can't remember about the farm to table piece, but it will come. And if it doesn't, it will later tonight.
And I can't remember how to go back away from my thing here, but that's okay. Because we're fast running out of time, and I recognize that. In fact, I think we have like a minute left. So we will okay, that's pretty good. I mean, I think we don't need to talk about this too much.
Well, you talk about the challenges.
Recruitment can be challenging. Students don't always want to go and sign up for things, but we find face-to-face contact the most effective. If we talk to different classes in our schools face-to-face about the programs and show our excitement, then the students tend to get excitement as well. Same with recruiting at middle schools and for summer learning. Face-to-face has worked really well for us. So
Isn't that?
This is yours, Jake.
Okay, this was the pros and cons that become more of the challenges and joys, because I think when we think about cons, it can be disappointingly challenging. But funding is really a challenge. Everything you see there, Joe and I have fought for money to fund. Every bit of it. So it's been years of learning how to source out funds, and that comes with finding community partners, like we said, that will give their time and their expertise and their services as well. Having time that to do everything, because there's a lot of time that it takes outside of teaching a class. Having balance in your life and in your work life, as well as all the challenges, just ongoing troubleshooting. These are all just things that are always present. And then there's tons of joys though. If you look at outdoor education, especially I feel like the way we're, because we connect with food and everybody loves food. And so it's like the way that you can really connect people. People are connecting to the place. We sit there, we look at all the mountains, Shem, Salesi, Tomahai, around us, Sumas, Vetter. We're offering tons of hands-on opportunities. Lots of kids do not feel good with reading, writing, book work. And so those kids have an opportunity to have a strength in another way of learning and showing that learning or succeeding. There's lots of opportunities for mentoring. As you see, one of our big ideas all along was to bring vertical alignment into the education system through mentoring. There's tons of real world experiences when it comes to solving problems, growing food, looking at doing irrigation setup, servicing tools, stuff like that. And then there's tons of opportunities for community connections. And I think we spoke to a lot of those, and I think that's kind of clear. But if you have questions, please put it into.
Well, I would just add maybe that, that list we showed you a second ago on our website is a list of contacts in a sense, but each one represents a relationship that we formed over the years. So, and that's really one of my favorite parts about running a program like this, is meeting all these people, forming connections. I mean, Farm to School is a great example where we're getting to know you really well. Hopefully we'll get to know some more people on this webinar as well, because every time we make a connection, we learn something new, we get a new opportunity, we find out someone knows more about this and we can try something else. And so I find that the community piece and the connections we make, and students are also exposed to these connections too, and they're meeting the people doing the work and growing our food and all this as well. So it's pretty powerful.
It is. So this is the second greenhouse that I wanted you to think of. Or sorry, compared to the one I wanted you to think of, our first greenhouse. This one is a tunnel greenhouse, and this is our goal right now. We are working with Harnois greenhouse manufacturers, as well as right now our district and some of the personnel, in order to get a quote out there for development. But we've been doing this fundraising and project design for the last 5 years. And we have raised $140,000 so far for this greenhouse. And it sounds like it's going to come in around 200,000. Not the greenhouse itself, but a lot of the politics around organizing such an event on a school district property in SD 33.
That was very specific.
So what we're going to be growing in there is not necessarily in the ground like the way that you see it, but we do have some ideas for vertical growth, for hothouse growth, like you saw in the picture, the engagement picture of our old greenhouse, or our first greenhouse, and our veggie crop, some germination in there, some propagation techniques,
Hydroponics, more hanging baskets.
more hanging baskets, whatever we can utilize it, we're going to utilize it. And that's going to be our next goal. And if you can remember where those little white flags were, where the giant pumpkins were, that's going to be where we're going to be plopping this in a few months into the next school year. And we'll be completing it with our hopeful grand opening in almost a year after the next plant sale. And we would like to invite anybody to join at that time. If you're interested, just feel like emailing us and we'll share an invite. I think
Thank you.
the questions.
4 minutes over, not bad.
Sorry for
That's very good. That was a lot of information in a short period of time. Thank you so much, Joe and Tania. We did get quite a few questions actually coming in the chat. So we'll do kind of a bit of a rapid fire here. I don't think we'll have time to get to all of them, but let's start going through and see how many we can get to.
Okay, we've got them up here too. Do you want me to just read them out then and go through them?
Sure, yeah.
So
yeah,
Marcus answered the independent directed studies.
Thank you, Marcus.
Which is correct. That's what it stands for. It's basically a personalized course that students can take on a project that's linked to the curriculum of a
Yeah.
course.
So basically when the kids exhaust the other credit options, they still want to continue with this, it's our new final straw.
Okay, so like I mentioned, we have a large high school, so that really helps for the in-school time courses. So we have 1,400 students. We run courses through from grade 10 through grade 12, and we probably this year have 70 students signed up, 80 students, something like that. Next year it'll be more like 90 or 100 students because we have an extra block for the double block.
And then we've got about 6 to 7 visiting classes of 24 to 28. And then in the summer,
From other schools.
Yeah, from other schools. And then in the summer, there's 170-ish kids.
Yeah, so elementary, middle, we've invited to have gardens at the farm as well. And it's worked out okay. We need to keep on working on that. But the summer learning, it doesn't, the question about how big a school do you need, you know, like it helps to have a big school. But for our summer program, it's a district course. It's not a Sardis Secondary course. So our entire district is invited to take part in that course, which means it's a lot bigger pool to draw from. And it isn't on school property anyway, the farm, it's on school district property. Yes, our greenhouse is heated for sure, because in February it still freezes at night. So definitely we have a furnace, natural gas furnace. And our new greenhouse will also be natural gas heated. And we can talk about all the pros and cons of natural gas versus wood chips versus all the other types of heating. But natural gas is sure nice because it's sure easy to turn on and off. You want to, yeah.
I think I got the question. Are these plants started from seeds? There's so many different plants. So some of them we start from seeds, some of them we buy from a local greenhouse grower for our hanging baskets. So our hanging baskets come as plugs that are started as cuttings. And then with our farm program, we do a lot of transplants, a lot of seed sets, a lot of potato seeds, and we do a lot of direct sow.
Yeah, so definitely a combination. Depends on the type of crop we're growing. Flowers are all from like a stuck cutting rooted seedling, right? We have about 20 members in our CSA on average. It varies a bit from year to year. Extra liability insurance having students with machinery.
No, because they're not on heavy machinery. And the only thing is the older kids will drive the lawnmower. And
no, we don't have liability for that.
I don't think the district has liability for district liabilities.
The bee suit's pretty cute. Yes, they
Yeah,
were.
they are cute.
What were we last year? 40?
Oh, it's
45?
so hard to say how much with inflation and stuff. We might have to go up to 100. No, we started so cheap at 20. You saw how much food's in those baskets, and we're I think last year at 40, and people are walking away with like hundreds of dollars of groceries each week.
Annual operational budget of the farm. Well, I'll speak to the greenhouse. Our greenhouse budget, I would just say, is roughly $20,000. I'll just throw that out there.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll give you our budget, the budget that comes through enrollment. If you're a teacher, you understand, or the system, it goes by number of heads in the school and then number of heads per class. We get about $1,000 to $1,500 a year, and everything else is fundraised.
Yeah, the grants are only for extra projects we do. So the grants for our new greenhouse build, but in terms of our year to year, it's all through fundraising and our per student funding. How did it all start? Okay, so the greenhouse, I got hired and they said, hey, you're the new guy, go teach agriculture. And so it just happened to work out that was my background, and Tania.
And then I got hired and they said, can you teach agriculture?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah.
And so we've had a flawless partnership for the last 15 years.
Flawless. Almost 20. But the real program startup was about 41 years ago. Last year we had someone telling us it was the 40-year anniversary. The pandemic made us lose track a little bit. And it started in the halls of our old school with our predecessors. So we are not the original set starters.
We did some modernizing when we took over and tried to copy industry standards. And then that was the greenhouse, and the farm really came from a really successful plant sale where we had just really great community engagement, student engagement. And I sat up and wrote a proposal that was even much more vast than this one, include like animal barns and all sorts of stuff. And so then we kind of talked about it and said, well, why don't we start with like a garden? And it kind of went from there. And that was 2009. And yes, we presented to the school board. We had definitely great support from our principal at the time, Bob Long, and our principals all along have been very supportive of us doing this. Oops, what'd I do?
I don't know.
There we go. Yes, many of our students go on to study horticulture. I mean, I can think of Alicia and Brianna.
There's quite a few, not the whole entire group, but you know,
There's definitely some wanting the science credit.
yeah, some are here just to get the science credit so they can graduate. Other kids want a hands-on course. Other kids want to be outside. Other kids like the lawnmower. Some kids like shoveling the manure. And some kids actually want to go on into the world of anything to do with ecosystem stuff, from food to forestry to fisheries.
We get students who are in the welding program and they just love taking agriculture, but ultimately they're heading towards like a welding program. But it often the careers are linked anyway, because obviously you need welders in agriculture as well. SD6 grounds in Invermere. I think that's one we spoke with. But thank you for that. Yes, I would like to see that one. I'll look that one up again. Funding.
I think that wraps it up for the questions there, Joe. Just noting that we are at 4:31, wanting to get people out of here on time. Thank you. That was very impressive that you're able to make it through all those questions all at once. Any additional questions? Maybe folks can follow up with an email and we can direct it to Joe and Tania and see if they are able to respond to those, and we can connect folks that way. Just wanted to, before we jump off, do a quick reminder that our next webinar is going to be coming up with Sardis Secondary School on Thursday, May 15th from 3:30 to 4:30. So mark your calendars for that. In the meantime, thank you everyone so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you to Joe and Tania. That was an incredible wealth of knowledge in a very short period of time. We're so grateful you were able to join us today. And we will be reaching out with an email with all of the details that we shared in today's webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.